How to control your emotions in stressful moments. Imagine this for a second. You're in the middle of an argument. Or you just got a harsh email from your boss. Or your phone lights up with a message you did not want to see. Your chest gets tight. Your heart rate spikes. Your brain starts racing. And before you even think, the words are already out of your mouth, or your fingers are already typing that reply you're going to regret in 10 minutes. We've all had those, "I wish I could take that back," moments. You can feel that you overreacted. But in the moment it felt almost automatic. Like your emotions hijacked your body and drove away with it. Today, we're going to talk about what to do in that exact moment. How do you stay in control when you're stressed, triggered, or overwhelmed? How do you manage your emotions in a way that feels human and honest, without letting them burn down your relationships, your reputation, or your day? If we haven't met yet, hi, I'm your name, and welcome to the podcast. Around here we talk about real-life tools for your mind, your emotions, and your daily life. No fluff, no perfectionism, just things you can actually use. And in this episode, we're diving into one of the most important skills for being a functional adult: learning how to control your emotions in stressful situations. Now, before we go any further, I want to say this really clearly. Controlling your emotions does not mean pretending you don't have them. It doesn't mean being a robot. It doesn't mean smiling through everything. And it definitely doesn't mean stuffing everything down until you eventually explode. When I say control, what I really mean is this: you feel what you feel, but you decide how you respond. Stressful situations are not going away. People will still disappoint you. Traffic will still suck. Mistakes will still happen. And life will still throw curveballs. The goal is not to eliminate stress, but to stop letting stress run the show. So here's the game plan for today. We're going to break emotional control in stressful moments into a few simple parts. First, what's actually happening in your body when you lose it? Second, how to interrupt that reaction in real time. And third, how to build habits that make it easier to keep your cool the next time life hits the fan. Let's start inside your body for a second. Because when you feel yourself freaking out, that's not you being dramatic. That's your nervous system doing exactly what it thinks it needs to do to protect you. When something feels threatening, whether it's your boss's tone, your partner's comment, a bill you weren't expecting, your brain doesn't stop to ask, is this a real emergency? It just recognizes stress and hits the alarm. Your heart rate jumps, your breathing gets shallow, your muscles tense up, your body is getting you ready to fight, run, or shut down. That's why, in those moments, it feels so hard to be rational. Your body is not in calm conversation mode. It's in survival mode. So if you've ever thought, "I know what I should have said, but I only thought of it after the argument," that's not because you're stupid. It's because your thinking brain went offline when your emotions spiked. So here's the first big secret. You can't think your way out of an emotional storm until you help your body calm down even a little bit. The first step to controlling your emotions is not to lecture yourself. It's to signal to your nervous system, "Hey, we're not in danger. You can ease up." How do you do that in real time? When everyone's staring at you, or when the email is sitting open on your screen? Step 1 is to notice and name what's happening. And I know that sounds simple, but it's powerful. Instead of, "I'm losing it," you create a tiny bit of distance by saying, "Wow, I'm feeling really anxious right now." Or, "I can feel anger rising in my chest." Or, "I'm overwhelmed." You don't have to say this out loud if that feels weird. You can say it in your head. But by naming it, this is anxiety. This is anger. This is shame. You're turning the light on in a dark room. Your brain shifts from being fully inside the emotion to also observing it. Oh, this is what's happening. You can even try a little phrase like, "Okay, this is a wave, and I'm going to ride it." Because that's how emotions work. They rise, peak, and then fall. No emotion stays at a 10 forever, even though it feels like it in the moment. Step 2 is to give your body a quick reset. And no, we're not talking about a 30-minute meditation in the middle of a fight. I mean tools you can use in 10, 15, 30 seconds, right there in the moment. One of the simplest is your breathing. When you're stressed, your breathing becomes shallow and fast, which tells your body, "We're in danger. Stay on high alert." You can flip that signal by slowing your breath down on purpose. Try this. Breathe in through your nose for a count of 4. Hold for a moment, Then breathe out slowly through your mouth for a count of 6. If counting doesn't work for you, just think, shorter inhale, longer exhale. You can do that sitting in a meeting, standing in line, or even with your camera off on a Zoom call. No one has to know. Another quick reset. Relax one part of your body at a time. Notice your jaw. Are you clenching it? Gently loosen it. Notice your shoulders. Are they up around your ears? Let them drop. Notice your hands. Are you gripping something? Let your fingers soften. These tiny physical cues can help send the message. We're okay. We don't need to brace for impact. So in the heat of the moment, your first mini toolkit is, name it. Breathe. Relax something. That alone can take you from a 10 down to maybe a 7 or a 6. Which is often enough to make a better choice. Step 3 is creating a pause between what you feel and what you do. This is the part that actually looks like controlling your emotions on the outside. Because let's be honest, most of the damage we do when we're stressed doesn't come from the emotion itself. Anger, fear, frustration, those are just signals. The damage comes from the text we send, the email we fire off, the words we throw, the decisions we make while we're hijacked. So your goal is to build a habit of inserting even a tiny pause between I feel and I act. That might look like saying, give me a second, and taking a sip of water instead of snapping back. It might look like, hey, I want to talk about this, but I'm too heated right now. Can we take a short break and come back to it? It might look like not replying to that message for 10 minutes. Or 30 minutes. Or until tomorrow morning. If you're tempted to send an emotionally loaded text or email, one of my favorite tricks is to write it in your notes app or in a draft first. Not in the actual chat. You let yourself get the words out, but you commit to reading it again later. With a calmer brain, before you hit send. 9 times out of 10. Future you will be very glad past you waited. Here's the thing. When you're in a stressful situation, your nervous system is screaming, do something right now. Control is often choosing not to do something right now. Step 4 is choosing your story. Once your body has calmed down even a little, you can actually think again. This is where you get to step back and ask, okay, what meaning am I giving this situation? Because a lot of emotional suffering doesn't come from what happened, it comes from the story we tell ourselves about what it means. Your friend cancels plans. One story is, they never really cared about me, I'm always the last priority. Another story is, they're probably overwhelmed today, that sucks. But it's not about my worth. Your boss sends a short email. One story is, they hate my work, I'm probably getting fired. Another story is, they're in a rush, this is just how they type. I'm not saying you should gaslight yourself and pretend everything is fine when it's not. Sometimes the negative story is actually true. But controlling your emotions means not automatically picking the most painful version every time without checking. A really good question to ask yourself is, what else could this mean? Not, what's the most positive spin I can put on this? Just, what are 2 or 3 possible explanations? That alone softens the emotional intensity and gives you more room to respond instead of react. Step 5 is what happens after the stressful moment has passed. This is where real growth happens. And most of us skip it. When things calm down, take a little time, even just 5 minutes, to replay what happened in your head. Without judgment, as if you were watching a scene in a movie. You might ask yourself, what triggered me the most there? Where did I feel it in my body? What did I do that helped? What did I do that made it worse? You're not doing this to beat yourself up. You're doing it to learn your patterns. Maybe you notice, wow, I always lose it when I feel like I'm not being heard. Or, emails from this one person always put me on edge. Or, I can't have serious conversations when I haven't eaten all day. The more you understand your own triggers, the more you can prepare for them. You can go into certain situations with a plan. Okay, I'm going into a hard meeting. I know my heart rate will spike. So I'm going to have a breath practice ready. Or, I'm talking to this person who pushes my buttons. I'm going to decide ahead of time not to respond to any messages from them after 10 p.m. That's emotional control, not perfection. Not never feeling anything, but knowing yourself well enough to build a little structure around your weak spots. Finally, I want to talk about the long game. Because all the techniques in the world are going to feel impossible if you're constantly running on empty. It's really hard to stay calm when you're exhausted, sleep deprived, underfed, or burned out. Think of your emotional self-control like a battery. Every stressor during the day drains it a little. Sleep, food, movement, small moments of joy, those things recharge it. You don't have to live like a wellness influencer to benefit from this. You just need to ask, what are 1 or 2 simple things I can do this week to make it easier for my future self to stay grounded? Maybe that's going to bed 30 minutes earlier. Maybe it's stepping outside for 5 minutes of fresh air between meetings. Maybe it's drinking water before your 3rd coffee. Maybe it's having one person you can text when you're spiraling, instead of trying to hold it all in. And look, if you're going through something really heavy, like trauma, grief, or long-term anxiety or depression, it's totally okay if these tools are not enough by themselves. That doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. Reaching out to a therapist, a counselor, or a support group is a strong move, not a failure. Sometimes emotional control in stressful situations starts with having real support outside of those situations. So let's bring this down to something super simple you can remember. Even when you're flooded. In the moment, think, name it, breathe, pause, choose. Name it. I'm feeling really overwhelmed, angry, anxious right now. Breathe. 2 or 3 slow, controlled exhales to tell your body you're safe. Pause. Delay your reaction, don't send, don't snap, don't decide yet. Choose. Once you're a little calmer, choose your words or actions on purpose. You're not going to do this perfectly. No one does. You're going to have days where you're proud of how you handled yourself. And days where you think, wow, that was not my finest moment. That's okay. Every stressful situation is another representative in the gym of emotional strength. If you want to start building this skill this week, here's my challenge for you. For the next 7 days, pick just one stressful moment each day to practice this on. Not all of them, just one. When you feel that wave hitting, ask yourself, can I try my little 4-step process here? Can I name it, breathe, pause, and choose, even for 30 seconds? If you blow it, that's fine. Reflect later, learn from it, and try again next time. Over time, you'll start noticing something really cool. The gap between emotion and reaction gets a little wider. You catch yourself a little sooner. You bounce back a little faster. You feel less like your emotions are driving you, and more like you're the one holding the steering wheel. And that doesn't just make you calmer. It makes your relationships safer. It makes your decisions wiser. It makes you someone you can trust to be there for yourself when things get hard. Alright, I'm going to wrap it up here. If this episode was helpful, if it gave you even one tool you want to try, do me a favor. Share it with a friend who's going through a stressful season and could use a bit of calm. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me, what's the hardest situation for you to stay calm in? Remember, feeling big emotions doesn't make you broken. It makes you human. Learning to handle those emotions with wisdom and care, that's the real superpower. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you in the next one.